The battle has begun. Yesterday saw the first 3 races of this year's Louis Vuitton America's Cup Challenger Playoffs final, and there was no shortage of drama. First blood went to the Kiwis, just one mistake by the Swedes, and that was that. Peter Burling pounced, 1-0 to New Zealand. Round 2, and it was Nathan Outridge's turn to stamp his authority. A perfect race, faultless boat handling, and sweet revenge to level up the scores at 1 apiece. The final race of the day could not have been closer. 2 teams dead matched for boat speed and handling. In the end, it took an anomaly to decide the outcome. Peter Burling's men may be 2-1 up, but the tie could not be more tightly balanced. Too hard to call then, as we look forward to more nail-biting action today.
Hello and welcome to beautiful Bermuda, which, rather like its trademark cocktail, is dark and stormy today. We are closing in on the identity of our challenger for the 35th America's Cup itself. I'm Alistair Eakin alongside Ken Reid, veteran America's Cup skipper and president of North Sails. The Swedes and the New Zealanders are locked in battle in the playoffs final. 3 more races to come today. The Kiwis with a slender advantage. They could actually seal it with 3 straight wins against Nathan Outridge's Swedes. It's not impossible to think that we might have our challenger by nightfall. The New Zealanders have a 2-1 lead after yesterday's action in a 1-to-5 contest, a maximum of 9 races, just as it was in the semi-finals. So today, a mixed weather forecast for a paradise island. The rain sheeting down at times today, but significantly wind speeds of up to 15 knots. Good foiling conditions on the Great Sound, if a little variable. So the stage is set for the racing to get underway. Someone's job might just be in jeopardy for this little error of judgment, but the anticipation everywhere around Bermuda is building, and the crowd's gathering in the America's Cup Village. Let's have a look now at the best of the action from yesterday.
Starting the 3-race day yesterday was a very common theme. Artemis Racing winning the start. They won all 3 starts yesterday in all 3 races, and they looked pretty sorted out, but one kind of pedestrian tack, one average tack in the middle of the race course tightened this one up, and then the costly error. An unforced error of going out of bounds by Artemis Racing dropped them back by penalty 2 lengths, and sure enough, you give this black and red boat any chance, any sniff at success, and they go on to win the race comfortably. Race 2, again, Artemis Racing pulled the trigger far better than Emirates Team New Zealand, and then a little match racing, a little luff, and all of a sudden a peel away and a big extension. Artemis Racing sailed one of their best, maybe one of the best races we've seen in this entire America's Cup rendition to date. They stayed on their foils 100% of the time. They kept control of the situation. They used tight tactics when they needed to. They needed loose tactics when they needed to. Went off to win a very, very impressive race number 2. Race 3, guess what? Same theme. Artemis Racing with a little more aggression from Peter Burling off the starting line, but they do a really nice job of pulling the trigger here. I actually thought Emirates Team New Zealand had the start on this one, but Artemis took off. They accelerated very fast, led barely at gate number 1, and set up for a very tight race. This was back and forth, maybe one splashdown once they had a bit of a lead, a slight error, but the best was yet to come. The craziness continues for Artemis Racing when in the right side of our screen there, you see Nathan Outridge, the skipper, taking a dive and ending the race for Artemis.
So lots of excitement yesterday, plenty more to come today. The first race not too far away, race 4 of the Challenger Playoffs final between New Zealand and Sweden. The Kiwis, as we saw, they sailed really well yesterday. They were outdone in each of those starts, but they recovered so well. Earlier today, Alec Wilkinson caught up with the helmsman of Emirates Team New Zealand, Peter Burling.
Peter, they often say that consistency is your strength. Do you feel your Achilles heel is your start at the moment?
Oh, well, yesterday, obviously the first start, we put ourselves in a pretty bad spot, but, you know, the next 2 starts, I think we definitely had good opportunities to win them, and we've been back and reviewed those overnight, and we're definitely trying to tidy up that area, but definitely the exciting thing for us is, how quick the boat was going and how we could just hold in the race and eventually make passes to win races. And it's something you've got to be able to do both. And today we'll definitely be looking to try and get off the line, but if we don't, we still know we're a really strong package and can still win races from behind.
You're particularly strong when you're ahead. I think you've got a 100% win rate when you round that first mark in the lead. So how do you win those starts? What are you going to change?
Yeah, it's just tidying up the little things, doing the little things well, and there were just a couple of little errors we made yesterday in the second and third start that cost us it, and we're definitely looking to clean those up today.
Well, Emirates Team New Zealand has, in fact, won 100% of their races when leading at Mark 1. So why not get to Mark 1 ahead? Why the comfort zone of playing from behind? Peter Burling has insane talent to sail these crazy fast boats, but for sure he's lacking the starting line gene at this stage. A concern in the Challenger finals, of course. And if they get through by chance to the Cup, they're going to have to fix this problem.
So the Swedes enjoyed race 2 yesterday, a flawless effort in terms of boat handling, but they did lose their helmsman overboard in the final race, and it cost them the lead over their opponents. Alex spoke to Nathan Adridge a short time ago.
Yeah, two errors yesterday. One was pretty catastrophic, falling overboard, so a little bit of extra grip tape and a little bit slower pace across the boat today. And the first race, just didn't really have a good tack. I think the position upon reviewing it was good, but the execution of the manoeuvre wasn't great. So, I think we've already fixed that problem. The second 2 races, we tacked really well, positioned really well. So, I think we're in good shape for today. We eliminate those and, we'll win all the races.
The Artemis Racing quote of the day. Ian Percy, the tactician, said, after a pedestrian 1 and 2 series start, there will be a more refined Artemis team on the water today. Well, today's the day. There may not be a tomorrow if they can't become more refined. We've said this many times before, and I'll say it again. Eliminate the big mistakes or this series isn't going to last long for skipper Nathan Adridge.
So it is bubbling up nicely for the showdown this afternoon. Let's take a look at today's course, Ken.
Well, welcome to the unpredictable Great Sound of Bermuda, the scene for this, the second day of the Challenger Finals. The L-shaped race course features a 2-minute start sequence followed by the critical high-speed blast reach to Mark 1. 5 quick windward leeward legs and a 15-knot southwesterly breeze, and then that dash to the finish 200 meters off of America's Cup Village.
So the latest episode of the Challenger Final about to get underway. Ken, just explain to us why it's not obvious that you start at the closest end.
Well, approximately 20 meters, 15, 20 meters. Remember, the wind, first of all, it's raining like crazy out there today. Those are for all my friends at home that said I have to start being more of a weatherman. The wind is coming from up at this angle. That means this end of the line is closer down here, but the speed angle is much faster from this angle here. So the reason they set up the race course this way is to try to entice boats down to the closer end here and not just have everybody fight for this high speed position going that way. So it's a bit of a challenge. It certainly gives choices and options to the two players as you're entering the starting line.
So the duel between Outridge and Burling continues to fascinate old adversaries on the water, despite their years. Very different characters, both young stars of this sport who will expect to be doing battle for years to come out there. On go the goggles for Nathan Outridge. He needed a scuba tank yesterday for a short time. New Zealand then with port entry for this first race of the day, the 4th in the series, as they continue this Challenger playoffs final. These starts absolutely key. Nathan Outridge, well, he made them his own yesterday in each of the 3 races. Let's bring in Paul Kayard, a veteran America's Cup skipper. He's out on the water for us today. Paul, these starts, how much of a worry is it for Burling?
Well, I think Burling's definitely got to get his game on. He can probably win this series without good starts, but he needs to get ready for the Cup. And Artemis might be a little unsettled. They just got their shore repair guy off the boat with 4 seconds to spare. They had to work on the wing. You can see it on the starboard side. They made a repair in the last 5 minutes.
Okay, well, we're going to have to keep a close eye on that because we've had a number of teams with wing trouble through the course of the fortnight that we've been here.
Well, let's see if Emirates Team New Zealand has a bit of a different strategy today in this start box. It is an amazing statistics that they've won 100% of their races when they've gotten to that Mark 1 first.
So here we go, the Louis Vuitton America's Cup Challenger Playoffs final underway again. First of 5 race wins becomes the challenger. And conceivably the Swedes could be eliminated by the end of the day. 3 race wins for the Kiwis, and they would confirm their place in the match.
Okay, these guys at this stage with 45 seconds to go don't really look like they want a piece of each other. But here we go. Are we going to try to go for the big hook if you're Nathan Outeridge? He is screaming at these guys to go loop around the backside of Emirates Team New Zealand. And he's pushing and pushing and pushing. Are they early for the start? Can he get underneath? I think they're going to get, and there they go. They're going to gap off and just go for a high-speed start. Only 19 seconds to go. I'm not so sure they're not late.
So difficult getting this timing right, isn't it? We've seen it time after time. The complications in having to slow up a little bit. And because they're heading at 35 knots or so, that is a real issue here. And away they go. There's nothing in it at the start.
They were just slightly early on Artemis Racing. They're coming from that higher speed favorite end. But remember, Artemis has probably started 1 boat length further away from Mark 1 than Emirates Team New Zealand. Can they use that speed and angle into the mark and get over the top? And it looks like they do it again.
Certainly looks as if the speed is too much for the Kiwis in that opening reach. Into the first mark and turning downwind. 45 knots of boat speed. We know the Swedes are quick. That isn't the issue here. The issue is boat handling and whether they can maintain the consistency of their maneuvers across this course now with a familiar pattern. For the 4th race running between these two, Artemis Racing have got the best start, and the Kiwis have to play catch-up.
Kiwis jibe early, most likely to set themselves up for a split at the bottom gate.
What about the foils in use today?
Yeah,
Ken, because it's the conditions are tricky because the wind speed's varying a huge amount.
These look certainly, and we're trying to get confirmation right now, but certainly much shorter foils on Artemis than there is on Emirates Team New Zealand. So you got to imagine that inherently the breeze is it's just simply windier than it was supposed to be right now. You got to believe that has to be favoring Artemis at this stage, just from a pure boat speed standpoint. 44 knots coming into this bottom mark.
Swedes absolutely hammering it and keeping it very tight to the gate. Trying very hard not to lose too much boat speed, and the New Zealanders are there or thereabouts, but not the cleanest of mark roundings. So both attacking relatively simultaneously. Look at this though from New Zealand, not the stability that we're used to from them, but a good enough recovery.
Yeah, good recovery, that's exactly right. Minimizing what could be a disastrous mistake and keeping it close. This is the Emirates Team New Zealand that we have become incredibly familiar with. Just content with keeping it close and keep the pressure on the boat ahead. Don't say
clarity, is tremendously helpful in this situation because they've been in this scenario countless times in the last 2 weeks, and it just does not faze them.
It doesn't faze them. I mean, look, they literally don't say anything on board. It's an incredible form of non-communication. guess anybody can technically do that, can't they?
So the cyclists hard at work. It's the only team, of course, who have their grinding system operating like that, generating the power with their legs rather than their arms. The hybrid system adopted by the Americans. Maybe we'll see a showdown between those two different systems in the match itself. The Swedes will have other ideas, though. All action across the platform. Nathan Aldrich just being a little bit more careful, perhaps, than yesterday. He was talking, wasn't he, about the need for a bit of grip tape along the back there to help him out, and he was going to take things a little steadier after his impromptu swim yesterday.
God, that looks like fun.
Another 20 seconds.
Simon van Velthoven, the man at the front, the first cyclor that you saw. There's Peter Burling, just calm and in control as ever. The Iceman.
Slight right-hand shift as our indicator is showing up there, but both boats aiming for that right-hand side. The Kiwis probably took a slight advantage on that shift. It's wet out there, right? I mean, these guys are all a little bit moist on board, not just from getting fire hosed by the boat, but it's pouring rain. At this stage, I don't know if they feel it anymore. I think these guys are very used to being a bit moist on board.
So let's bring in Paul Kayard, who's out on the water for us today. Paul, what have you spotted in the opening exchanges between these two today?
Well, I agree with Ken. Artemis definitely changed boards from yesterday. They're on their high-speed boards, and I think that's what gave them the pace off the start. In upwind here, they look fast. They're also match racing well. You saw the last time on starboard, they tacked right on the Kiwis' face and controlling. They look like they want to protect the left. So I'd say Artemis faster today with the high-speed boards. That's the big change so far.
You know, Paul, a lot of times Artemis has been known to go asymmetric and actually use a higher speed board for that first reach, try to get that lead, try to be really quick on that first reach, and then use a lower speed board. I'm not so sure. It's not often we see both of them at the same time. I wonder if we can try to measure them at some stage, or even we'll try to get a hold of their measurement certificate. Maybe they have to put a measurement certificate in every single day.
Yeah, that's affirmative. I just noticed, like you did, that the board looks significantly shorter. I think it's about 2.4 meters today. Kiwis are on about 2.7 meters, but they have a thinner tip. Kiwis have the same boards as yesterday, so it's interesting that Artemis went with the high-speed boards because, as you know, the forecast was for pretty light air today. Right now, there's more wind than the forecast, so it's working out for Artemis.
Yes, the wind speeds we were expecting around 8 to 10 knots, possibly less than that at various moments, but we've been up to 17 and around about 14 just now.
I think Artemis is sailing really well. They pushed the Kiwis into the right corner on the beat, which was a loss for the Kiwis, and then they set up the split here at the weather mark, pushing the Kiwis back into that same light air corner.
Pressure it up a bit.
When these guys keep those big mistakes away, they've always looked spectacular. And the Kiwis are doing their Kiwi thing. They just keep it close and solid as a rock and just wait to pounce. But I think Paul's exactly right. Ian Percy definitely chose the correct side here. A little more pressure, a little less land mass directly upwind of the side of the race course that Artemis Racing went to.
That number was not very good for the bottom market. Yeah, I agree. 35 seconds is quite precious. The pressure's good in front. We have to watch going a bit early for the left-hand half, basically. Marginal one and in for the right. That's slowly going to get dropped pressure out here, but I think it's okay. Be nice to do it in one.
It's almost a permanent conversation on board the Swedish boat, whereas the Kiwis are virtually silent.
Well, a lot of good tacticians are known really to, well, it's kind of what we do. They become almost a play-by-play. They're analyzing what's going on the race course. And Burling just does both of those jobs pretty much himself.
Coming in 5, okay? Yeah. Pressure at 5.
They're talking about big breeze coming down their side right now.
Pressure here. 15 still.
35 knots.
What's the boundary? 3. Right hand mark favoured at the moment, but let's see. We'll get there. Good pressure in the lower nose. Body's down. Happy to put it in the bank though, please. Copy. Here it is. You're happy with him getting the split? At the moment it's 30 metres. I think we have the lead to go right hand mark, early tack. Yeah, copy that.
By the way, up forward, we just had a close-up of yesterday's temporary helmsman, Luke Parkinson, who got kind of thrust into action.
Good pressure out.
I think he's a little more comfortable back in,
Good pressure out that way, yeah.
in today's position so far. Anyway.
I mean, comfort's relative, isn't it, when your heart rate's at 90% of its max?
2, 1, here we go.
Nice little leg by Artemis here. I think Paul said it exactly right. Ian Percy did a really nice job of choosing the side of the gate at the top of the course, up at the windward mark, that he thought was going to be better pressure, and they extended.
Swedes cruising away and looking pretty comfortable at this point, but when Peter Burling is on your tail, I'm not sure anything is a given. A relentless physical flogging. That's what some of these sailors have described that grinding activity as. Just no prisoners taken.
VMG or slightly higher. Nice lifting now.
You hear Percy saying VMG or slightly higher. That VMG is the sailor's term for the combination between closeness to the wind and flat boat speed and flat out boat speed. And the further you head away from the wind, typically the faster you go, the closer you go to the wind, the shorter the distance. So it's that combination of the two that's so critical. Man, they look like long boards.
So a healthy lead at the moment for the Swedish boat under Nathan Outridge. Peter Burling is leaving it pretty late if he's to squeeze back into the picture here. Can you explain some of those numbers?
Yeah, sure. Well, this is a classic kind of a display that a sailor on any sailboat with instrumentation would see. The actual boat speeds. The TWD is true wind direction. TWA, true wind angle. And then that VMG number that we were talking about before. The VMG is the combination of boat speed and true wind angle. And it's as good a judge as anything. Certainly throwing a bunch of numbers at the newcomer to sailing, but for those who have been doing it for quite a while, believe it or not, Ali,
it makes sense.
For you rugby guys, it may not be perfect, but
we can only count in threes. So.
Marking on 1 minute left, okay? Yeah, I don't think we'll get it really. Which means we're 2 in right. Open course, we can hit him on the next one. Copy.
The amazing thing is exactly what Ian Percy's up to right now. All that incredible physical activity and still having the wherewithal to make the right decisions tactically, spotting wind shifts, working out what the best possible options are.
The Kiwis still do not go away. They've climbed it back. It was almost a 200-plus meter.
Monster nosedive from the Swedish boat. And now what is that going to cost them in terms of the meters?
Something's wrong on board Artemis right now. Something there, out of control on board Artemis. I think they fouled Emirates Team New Zealand. They are the windward boat. Emirates Team New Zealand has pushed their button. Let's wait and see. It's in the hands of the umpires again.
So they're looking for
no
penalty. Has not been awarded, so a lifeline to the Swedes, but a dramatic development with only, what, a leg and a half before the reach to the finish, and now battle really is joined. Look how tight they are to each other. Now, again, the Kiwis protesting against the Swedish boat once more.
Well, it was a little luff there. It was unclear whether there was an overlap or not, but why did Artemis lose control? Completely lost control there for a second. Here's the tack. After the tack, they get quite high in their flight right here, and they just skid sideways. Plaster it in, and then this is where it got really weird. All of a sudden, the boat bore off. Really high flight. Team New Zealand bore off because they thought they were going to have Artemis in their lap. So I have to admit, I'm surprised that wasn't a protest. That was a scary situation there.
Pivotal moments. And rounding gate number 5, they are heading downwind for the last time in the race. It's anybody's at the moment. The Swedes have just about managed to keep their noses in front, but it is incredibly tight, very marginal still. That wasn't too far removed, Ken, from what we saw the Kiwis doing last Tuesday when their boat ended up upside down.
Oh, you mean the
height
full,
that it got, the lift that it
pitch
got
pole
before plunging?
Yeah, that's a very fair point. It's also not too far removed from that Japan Land Rover BAR pre-start where BAR overflew and just skidded sideways into Japan. This seems like many moons ago, but if you overfly these boats, if they get too high, they go sideways. And that thing not only went sideways, but goodness, it looked like he lost steering control of it for a couple seconds and really set up what could have been a dangerous situation.
So the discrepancy there is Simon van Veldhoven right at the front here with his head face down. Only 51% of his max heart rate. I wonder if the device is working properly, because he sure looks like he's giving it everything he's got. And Blair Tuke is up in the 90s.
It's like having a carbon fiber pillow.
He doesn't look to be enjoying himself a huge amount, it must be said, just at this moment in time.
Keep turning into it. Quick turning. Head up, Goose. I'm a bit twisted.
So the jibe from the Swedes.
Yep.
Goodness, they have to consider themselves really very fortunate still to have this lead at this point.
Okay, now let's work it down slowly. So,
I mean, normally,
probably want to lay the right.
a mistake of that magnitude, Ken, it costs you the lead, and it hasn't on this occasion.
We're going to have to go back and look at that again. I mean, Artemis, when they kind of went scalding off away from, they weren't going upwind anymore. They went just careening off, seemingly losing control for a sec. I'll tell you what, if I were Peter Burling, I would have done exactly the same thing. I would have been bearing off to get out of the way, because I would have thought they were going to be sitting in my lap here in a split second. So just a fascinating turn of events of which they've obviously recovered.
Right wheel. Above this mark, obviously. Yep.
This is actually a right-hand turn coming into this final blast into the finish. Artemis Racing is actually on a fast ley line into this. Mark, they will have a faster angle than Emirates Team New Zealand, even though Emirates Team New Zealand has made the gate. Artemis is going to come ripping over this finish line, winning.
Just a handful of more meters to go. Recovering so well from what looked like Well, if not the end, then close to the end. But the Swedes across in race 1 of the day, race 4 of the final, at 40 knots and claiming the victory over Peter Burling's New Zealand team. They are level at 2 points apiece in the Challenger Playoffs final. Dramatic turn of events. And when you consider those circumstances, they will be thrilled, elated, and I'm sure enormously relieved.
That must have been a really scary moment. Not just the big old plunge, but to me, the much more important part of that was we've seen boats kind of plunge quite often. The big part was, why did they lose that steering control? Was it just the skidding sideways, which just sent them out of control? But hey, dominated. They first to the mark again and sailed just good enough to get around the race course ahead.
Well, great speed throughout the race, other than the one moment, the heart-stopping moment, and the Swedes coming home with a little bit to spare in the end. So their confirmation of the opening race of the day, race 4 of the Louis Vuitton America's Cup Challenger Playoffs final. 15 seconds, the margin of victory. 2 more races to come today, and they are level at 2 points apiece. So let's have a little look at the race in more detail.
Well, the start was again an Artemis start, but I think Burling certainly gave a little more of threw a little more back at it, but this was the key moment of the race. This was this crazy way out of the water, over-hoisted, people falling down. Now watch all of a sudden Artemis in the top of our screen starts bearing off and going sideways, and it looks like they're just going to come tearing into him. I guess I see where the umpires come from. If Emirates Team New Zealand hadn't borne off there, would Artemis been close to them? Likely not, but I can understand the situation, that why they bore off, because that looked pretty dicey to me.
So let's have a word with Nathan Outridge, the skipper, the helmsman of Artemis Racing. Nathan, congratulations, you got the win on the board. You were racing really fast. Can you explain what happened on leg 5, the nosedive and the bearing off afterwards?
We just like to keep it interesting for everyone.
You're doing that all right.
Yeah, exactly. No, all good. Just a little bit of a miscalculation there with the tack, but obviously just recovered just in time there to maintain.
So Nathan, take us through that tack. I mean, obviously all these boats every time, once in a while, get a little too high, and then the opposite of that is you very quickly get a little too low, but it was the skidding sideways and the kind of almost loss of steering control there for a second that had us all concerned.
Yeah, once you get a little bit too much angle of attack on the foil, you lose start skidding sideways, and in those moments you just keep trying to take the lift out and just wait for it to recover. If you take it out too quickly, you plant the bows, and I could have gone a little bit quicker there, but I was just trying to be a little concerned. We'll be right for the next one. It won't hold us back.
Nathan, thanks for your time. Congratulations.
Cheers, guys.
2 points apiece, and that means that they are here at least until tomorrow. The Kiwis needed to win all 3 today to wrap up the Challenger Playoffs final. Here are some numbers for you to dissect, Kenny.
Well, for sure, the upwind speed, as we've seen many times before, very, very similar. Downwind speed, but in essence, you're going to have to give the edge to Sweden, and I think they would have extended that lead even a little bit more, obviously without that slip up about halfway through the second upwind leg. So speed advantage to Sweden. Maximum speed, look at that, 45.5 knots for Sweden. Distance sailed a little shorter distance. What kept the Kiwis closer was they probably played a couple wind shifts a little bit better, but the quicker boat, it appears statistically, was certainly Sweden in that race.
So let's speak to the helmsman of Emirates Team New Zealand, Peter Burling. Peter, where was that race lost from your perspective? Was it the difference at the start, edged out at the first mark?
Yeah, well, we thought we got a really good start there, and then they just managed to push the boat that much harder down the reach, and it's something that we've got a lot to review. But for ourselves, we thought it was pretty touch and go when they had that little skid up the beat, and we definitely bore away a bit to avoid them there, just to make sure we didn't have an issue like what the BAR guys had did to SoftBank a few days ago. But we definitely feel like we're right in this. We managed to hold right next in that whole race, even though we felt like we were on the back foot a bit from the configuration. So we're really excited about getting into this next race and giving it another crack.
So, Peter, just give us a little hint. All of a sudden, that boat seemingly lost control, Artemis Racing, and I don't blame you even a little bit for bearing off and getting out of the way. The boat's probably only got about 2 boat lengths closer, but give us a sense of what it's like when that boat is flying at you like that.
Yeah, well, it's obviously not the nicest feeling seeing someone flying at you sideways from above, but obviously umpire thought it was fine, so their word's final.
Peter, thanks for your time. We look forward to seeing you in action very shortly, of course. So there's an old phrase often said about the America's Cup that the fastest boat always wins. Ask anyone taking part and they'll tell you that winning this competition is as much about design and development as it is about sailing, and it's been this way ever since the first edition.
America's Cup has always been associated with technology, and the fact is the fastest boat has always won, and that's probably been the case way back 100 years ago, and it's pretty obvious that that's the way it's still going.
It is, and it always has been a design technology race. Even when you look back to the first race around the Isle of Wight, and it was very much about developing the materials for the sails. The technology made a huge difference in terms of sail design, and obviously naval architecture, the materials available for the structure of the hulls of the boat. And then all the way through to 1983, and really that was one of the huge changes, was the wing keel. That was one of the key factors to Australia 2 being the first challenger to ever actually win the America's Cup and take it off the Americans.
Back in '83, we really saw people trying to hide ideas. Australia 2 was one of the first to use the shrouding, what we'd call the skirts, and they were just trying to hide that keel the whole time. And on the flip side, the whole counter-surveillance stepped up on the other teams, and effectively the spying started.
In a competition, technology is only useful if you've got it and your opposition haven't. Every team have a team out there around the world trying to get the technology off their opposition. I think that's half of the game. Let's find out what they're up to and copy.
We have so many smart designers and engineers working on trying to make the boat go quicker. So the sailing team is the minority for sure now.
When you look back to 2010, the deed of gift match between Larry Ellison and Ernesto Bertorelli in the giant multi-hulls, which then led into the multi-hull era and ultimately foiling multi-hulls.
I guess the more recent radical ideas have been foils.
It's a harnessing of nature in a way that absolutely blows me away still today, and you think we're 30 times faster than we were.
10 years ago, if you had said to me that we would be sailing around in foiling multi-hulls at close to 60 miles an hour boat speed, I would probably have laughed at you. So it'd be amazing to see where they're at in 10 years' time.
So the design race as key now as it ever was, of course, in the America's Cup. Wonderful crowds here today, lots of excellent vantage points. And the conditions now just beginning to ease a little bit out on the water, the wind dropping off a touch, now down to 10.5 knots or so. And we consider we were up at 16, 17 knots a little earlier on today. I wonder if that will continue to fall as the afternoon progresses. But the racecourse out here in the middle of Bermuda's Great Sound is the perfect amphitheatre for America's Cup racing. For the sailors competing out on the water, it's an ever-changing puzzle of shifting winds and changeable conditions and a constant learning experience.
We've learned here in Bermuda that the conditions are quite variable. Being out in the middle of the ocean. It changes quite quickly and often out here, and you know, we've had racing at the top limit and then a lot of days that have been quite light as well, and somewhere in between those limits has been some really good conditions, some really good racing, and because we are right in the middle of sort of the island, we have weather that's always affected by land, so it is shifty, it is puffy, and it does make for a lot of lead changes. When you are out in the top end range, obviously there's a match race going on and you are fighting another boat for a win. But you know, there's a lot more to it than that. It's all about looking after your asset, you know, managing the equipment, managing the people. You know, number one is always, as a skipper, keeping your crew safe. You know, we've always had a bit of a saying, you know, to finish first, you must first finish.
These boats are pretty quick around the track, and you know, they are a full handful in that breeze, and you know, any small mistake and you know, the consequences are pretty big.
The Kiwis, oh, they're taking a terrible nosedive. Crisis time for New Zealand.
All the guys out there that day would tell you they had a bit of damage on the boat, and you know, a lot of what they were trying to do was just get the boat around the track in one piece.
It is very shifty and gusty on the course, and there are moments where you can make decisions to utilise that, and sometimes you sort of just get dealt what you get given, and that's really important, keeping it tight when you are behind, because with the weather being the way it is here, there's always an opportunity.
A lot of it comes back to boat handling when you start talking about wind shifts as well, and you know, the boat handling actually creates, you know, what options you do have tactically.
The board selection is really critical for these boats. Most teams have set themselves up with a configuration that has a strong wind daggerboard setup, which is somewhere from around 12 or 14 knots and above. It's more about optimising, you know, straight line performance. And then the lighter wind boards are more about takeoff and being able to foil through lulls, and you need to use them right down from 6 knots all the way up into the, you know, low teens. And if you put the wrong daggerboards in for the wrong conditions, you really are compromised a lot.
I think everyone here has a fair few options on appendages, you know, whether it's the rudders or the boards as to what they use, and different wind strengths, and every team's, you know, set up slightly differently, and for ourselves, we feel pretty comfortable in that 12 to 16 knot range. I think here you've just got to be prepared for anything. You've got to be prepared for light and breeze, and you know, just whatever it's willing to throw at you on the day.
Be prepared for anything. I think that is the message for Bermuda, certainly. And Peter Burling was speaking the truth. It'll be recognised by everybody here, I think. So the Kiwis are involved in some investigations inside that hull, Ken. What is going on by your best guess?
Well, okay, first thing, we see paper towels or some sort of rag, so that might mean hydraulic in nature, that they're trying to clean something up or make sure that there might be some sort of a hydraulic, maybe a leak or something, but there's certainly some concern. There's a lot of people crawling down there, and I don't know where Paul Kayard is out on the water, but maybe he's over near those guys. Paul, any idea what's going on Emirates Team New Zealand?
No real idea. Obviously, like you're saying, they're working on the starboard hull. Yep, still on board, obviously trying to repair something, but I can't comment further on that, Ken. They're getting off now.
That could be some sort of adhesive that he had in his hand right there at the same time. For a minute there, because Glenn Ashby gets so tucked away in that cubby, that cockpit, I thought they might be looking for Glenn. They might have lost him down in that area, but he's up and out.
But I mean, there is a degree of urgency. I mean, you can see them moving around the boat. They're not hanging about, are they? They're moving at speed, which is suggestive of an issue that needs fixing at speed. And when you've got another race coming up imminently, you don't have a huge amount of time. There isn't the luxury of a big layoff here.
Sweden, on the other hand, looks pretty relaxed. Probably their shore team has already gone through the boat. They literally go through every single aspect of the boat, whether it's software, electronics, hydraulics, structural, front to back, top to bottom. Paul, we also saw these guys poking with the wing on Emirates Team New Zealand. Not really sure. It's kind of hard to judge, isn't it? Exactly whether they're fixing something or just tweaking something.
Yeah, I I think they adjust the ratios of their twist controls and their camber controls. You know, I think that was more of a subtle tune-up. You know, Artemis, as I said before the start of the first race, had shore crew on board the boat and even up the wing right up until 4 seconds before the cutoff. So if being unsettled before the start matters, it didn't affect Artemis at all. I think the big story is the boards. You know, Artemis definitely got different boards today, more high speed, and that served him well in the first race. The wind has dropped out here though now, Kenny. It's down 2 or 3 knots at least. Yeah, so let's see if it's a different story in this race.
Thanks, Paul. Here we go then for race 5 of the Louis Vuitton America's Cup Challenger Playoffs final. Nathan Aldridge's Swedes against Peter Burling's New Zealand. The stakes raised with every passing contest, of course, and these two locked at 2 points apiece. They've taken it into tomorrow at the very least, the Swedes, and they will feel now that they have every chance of ousting the New Zealanders. They've got a quick boat.
They definitely have a quick boat. It's fascinating to see that we've had exact flip-flop on daggerboard choices. Yesterday, the one team had their light air boards in, the other team had their heavy air boards in. Today they've flip-flopped. So the weathermen for both of these squads certainly have had a major play. Andreas Axelsson is really the only change on board. These America's Cup race teams are actually swapping people out in between races, really for the first time in history. None of the America's Cups I did we ever swap people out in between races.
Yeah, there's some different requirements these days for these guys, and physically it is just so demanding, and no one will feel that greater than the cyclors on board Emirates Team New Zealand. Let's see if they've made any changes to their lineup.
Well, it was very interesting to see that Simon van Velhoven, who's the bronze medalist cycler, who's a member of this sailing squad, he only had a heart rate of 51 in the last race. I hope for all of our sakes as athletes that that is not the case, because that is insane number. And you know what? It's really a big part of what these guys do is that fitness.
So let's have a look at the start again, Kenny. And again, we see that there is a discrepancy in the distance to the first mark, depending on where you kick off from.
That's correct. But last time, in the last start, Artemis made that longer side work. Remember, Artemis started up in this area and actually had a better angle down to the start line. They were faster. They rolled over the top of Emirates Team New Zealand, who started with a shorter distance to go. So it is this real cat and mouse game as to where you want to start, depending on breeze direction, breeze strength, and length.
So the 5th race of the Challenger Playoff final about to get underway. 2 points apiece in this 1st to 5 competition. New Zealand had a 2-1 lead. They had the better of racing yesterday. The Swedes have begun well here today. Good boat speed, slight wobble. More than a slight wobble.
Slight wobble.
I think that's a bit of British understatement.
Very well done.
Fact remains, it is anybody's. Very much up for grabs, this Challenger place.
I think this is when Kiwi fans are kind of white-knuckling it here in this start box. They just love to see their boat actually get first to that mark. Still, look at how long those dagger boards are. The light air boards on Emirates Team New Zealand. Like Paul Kayard reported, it's definitely, the breeze is down. We started the day at about 16 knots of wind, down to 10, a little closer to what was predicted. I think this is still on the high side of what was predicted.
So the Louis Vuitton America's Cup Challenger Playoffs final. 2 points apiece It's anybody's, and the cat and mouse well underway in the pre-start. Will Nathan Outridge own Peter Burling in this part of the race? Yet again, it's been 4 in a row that he's got off to the better start.
And both teams have actually cut the corner on the other. Originally, it was Emirates Team New Zealand kind of cut the corner on Artemis Racing. Artemis Racing goes right back at him. There's the starting line in the top of the screen. There's the starting line right up there. 28 seconds to go before the start. They got pretty far away. Is this actually time and distance back to the line right now? Neither of them are altering course by any means. Artemis maybe slightly thinks they're slow, but only 10 seconds to go. I think this is a clean start with Artemis clearly in the advantage right now. Can Emirates Team New Zealand make that better angle stick?
Clean start. Away they go. And again, it's the Swedes who are just about in front. But rather like before, there's not a huge amount in it. And the Kiwis this time on the outside lane, so to speak.
We've seen this move before. We've seen the move before where Artemis will keep them up above the mark. See the mark in the left-hand corner way down there. They're sailing above the mark. They will try to extend away. There they go. They peel away first and try to make a little extension.
Ripping over the water at 42 knots and beyond. The Swedes keeping it tight to the mark. Downwind they go. For the 5th race running, it is Nathan Outridge who has made it to the first mark in front. Now, across the couple of weeks that we've had here in Bermuda, that has made a big, big difference if you take all the teams as a whole. But the Swedes have not been converting their leads in quite the same way that they would have liked.
Well, they're now 50-50 in this series alone. I believe it's 66% of the time the Swedes have actually made that first mark lead stick onto the finish.
Give me a call. Anytime. 2, 1,
Interesting the way the course is set up. The boundary isn't even effect on this first run. Let's go down to maybe Paul Kayard in the water. And Paul, that first reach, Artemis made the kind of the unfavored speed side work that time. Clearly, those high-speed boards are better on that first reach, aren't they?
Exactly, Ken. I mean, so far, again, it's a tale of the boards.
Wind in right face.
Just wonder how much, even at this early point, the Kiwis would be concerned about it. Whenever he's asked about it, Peter Burling doesn't seem overly perturbed by the starts because he has such faith and confidence in the boat speed subsequently and their reliability in their manoeuvring, as we're seeing here, which is almost second to none. But if they were to go through, you have been saying repeatedly, Ken, haven't you, that Jimmy Spithill will really take advantage in those starts.
Well, I've noticed he's out here ever since Japan was eliminated. Jimmy Spithill's been out doing starting practice with Dean Barker every single day. So, you know, that's on the top of their mind. There's no doubt about that. I've been in tough spots like Peter Burling. We've all gone through streaks, Paul Kayard, myself, every other sailor in the world, where you lose a little bit of confidence in your starting ability. There's no doubt about that. And it's one thing to lose confidence. Look at this, a slight slip up on the tack. You lose confidence in your starting ability, but you constantly gain confidence in being able to dominate your opponent if they make one little mistake. And again, Artemis Racing tacked a little early off the line of Emirates Team New Zealand, and they pounce right away. That's incredible.
Would be Chris Brittle right now. 99% of his max heart rate, and every percentage is counting as they try to push the oil around the system, the hydraulic power that manipulates everything on board these platforms. Very, very tight to each other. This is where we might see a degree of tactical savvy coming into play. Ken, what are the options here for the two helmsmen?
Well, the option earlier was Artemis to actually tack on top of Team New Zealand or extend or go to the other gate if you think you're a faster boat. But they actually tacked in a really tough spot, and sure enough, they're paying for it. Here comes a luff.
So the Kiwis protesting at the path of the Swedes.
Yeah, and that's going to be a green flag, I think. The Kiwis did a luff. Artemis Racing rolled right into attack. They both did what they had to do in that situation. But the bottom line is, Artemis Racing set themselves up to get past with really just a bad tactical move. They didn't tack in the correct spot about half a leg ago. Here's the luff. Watch Burling. He's heading up. He's heading up. He has the right of way. He pushes the button before he even get close. Sorry.
It's road rage. It's boat rage.
It's called the Hollywood. He's talking to Richard Slater. Come on, Richard, help me out here. Little luff, and these guys are practiced. They did exactly what they had to do there. They tacked away, but here comes this key cross. Starboard tack boat, Artemis Racing. Port tack boat, Emirates Team New Zealand. Both likely laying the gate. This is where it always gets interesting. Looks to me like Emirates Team New Zealand might get across here. If they get across, easy cross.
Pretty good stuff for us on the down one.
They are really hammering their way up to the gate.
Yeah. 3, 2, 1.
Having come from behind, something they seem remarkably adept at doing. And again, just look, those hulls are barely moving from the height that they started the mark rounding at. Inch perfect, and we have a split course with the Swedes heading in the other direction. Who is going to find the better wind pressure?
Well, that's a good question, Paul K. Which side of the race course looks a little better? We got a nice split.
Yeah, usually this side that Artemis is on has a little more pressure, a little less land to windward of it, but I think the Kiwis will come out. They might lose a little bit of lead, but they're pretty comfortable, I think. They did well, Artemis made a mistake, as you said, up that beat, and they're paying for it.
Good angle, pressure hitting at this angle. Flywheel. Get it, Frankie.
So this was a few moments ago. Keep a close eye on these sailors here, because it's not easy crossing that platform, as you can see.
Hold on, baby.
Cling on for dear life. The last thing they need is to lose another man.
That wire it's not actually a wire, that's a carbon fiber cable that's used to actually hold the mast up, and looks like it held a human being up instead there.
100% fly time for the New Zealanders, and look just how far ahead they find themselves at this point.
You give them a sniff at the lead, and they just extend, they just dominate. And again, we keep harping on it, and I started to tell the story before for Peter Burling. Not only does he put pressure on himself in that starting line, but I'm sure he's sick of being asked about it.
Still pretty heavy right there. Nice and steady. Right.
We still haven't had it answered. What happens if you go over 100%?
Yeah, I think they suddenly burst into flames. Interesting to see Peter Burling's heart rate's up at 81%, and that's the same as, well, it's not too far shy of Blair Tuke, is it? Who's hard at work on the pedals.
Ready? Heavy? Yes. 2, 1.
Here's the jibe from the Kiwis, which will take them through this gate nice and clean in one.
3, 2, 1.
You give these guys any sniff, they extend. A faster boat always extends like this, you know, and certainly those light air boards don't seem to be affecting them very much right now with regard to pace. It's about 10.5 knots of wind speed on the water right now.
We're going to go before him, guys, aren't we? Yeah. Go up. High wing.
And no sign of the instability really from the Swedes that we saw in that previous race. They've looked pretty solid, but having been overtaken, they're facing a real job here.
He's got below, happy to go fast.
Just a slight little right-hand shift. I think this is it's a puffy day. This is as much about the pressure and where these pressure lines are coming from. They're kind of scattered all over the race course. Little rain squalls coming through still, dark clouds, a little patch of blue sky. It's a very interesting day for the weatherman, that's for sure.
One down on your flick. We'll be a boundary attack, 30 seconds. Yeah, still with us. Yeah. Facing up a click here now. Standing by here. Yeah. 3.
Short, clipped messages from Peter Burling. Everybody just seems to be bang in tune.
It's what's called a loose cover. They didn't tack directly in front of Artemis, but certainly well up to weather. A bit of a controlling tack. And, you know, Paul Carrot out in the water, every time Team New Zealand gets ahead, they extend, whereas when they're behind, they tend to kind of maintain. Is that the sign of a slightly faster boat?
Yeah, Kenny, as you and I know, that is the sign. And I guess the slightly less wind speed in this race suits their bigger boards just that little bit better. And, you know, the first tack by Artemis out of the leeward mark was very strange, as I'm sure you noticed. I mean, they tacked in the safe behind position, which no one ever does. So they did 2 tacks to New Zealand's 1 there, and that's just coughing up another 80 meters.
So the ploy of using those bigger boards bearing fruit as the wind just dissipates a little bit through the afternoon camp.
Yeah, for sure. These guys are also rumored along the waterfront of all the teams to have maybe the most forgiving setup. So their light air boards might be a little better in a slightly wider range. Same thing with their heavy air boards. And it's also talked about that they might have tips on their dagger boards that they can actually replace and, let's say, shrink a light air board or extend a heavy air board on a given day.
Between races?
No, never. Not a chance. It's always before they leave the dock, and I believe they have to make all those choices by 9 o'clock in the morning. But they can hedge. It might give them a little chance to hedge their bets a bit, you know?
On a day like this, which is quite unpredictable. Varied wing speeds, as we've seen throughout the afternoon so far.
Yeah, well, you and I were out on the water this morning early, and it was blowing 23, 24 knots at times. It was
very wet as well.
Very wet.
I can testify to that.
Good sandwiches, though. Good breakfast sandwiches.
I ate a lot of food. But my socks are still wet, so if you could do something about that, that would be great. Kiwis, in the meantime, making serene progress. Pretty high up on the water, but still swinging those bows round really quick.
Average wind speed dropping down to 10.5 knots. I think we're certainly going to see the Kiwis get a little bit better as it gets lighter, as reported.
They definitely seem the most comfortable in the lighter air, don't they? Even when we were in the round-robin stage, the qualifying stages, they were the ones thriving when the wind speeds were only at 6, 7, 8 knots.
Right at the bottom of that wind range. There's no doubt that I think that's when the Kiwis strike fear in most of the rest of the fleet. They seem to have more stability in that bottom that very, very bottom end wind range.
So one more downwind leg for the New Zealanders to navigate, and they look to have plenty of clear water between themselves and the Swedes at this point. What about this kink?
Yeah, the big old kink in the board. That's what we've all been talking about for quite a while. It really couldn't be more different than the dead straight boards of Artemis Racing. Both are obviously accomplishing great things. But yeah, you look at the design, and it's really quite interesting and quite strange. Look at how these guys, they round the mark and start going 5, 8, sometimes 10 knots faster than the boat's still going upwind, and how a small to medium-sized lead just expands so dramatically and so quickly for that boat that's ahead.
Happy lower than higher, but just work the depth and get it up. We might do it in 2. You go all the way, worth trying. That's the right turn, so it's 3. Yeah. Setting up. My way. 2, 1, yeah. Right. Stand my wheel.
600 meters now. It's a procession for the Kiwis from here. Not sure that's the word he's imagining just at this moment.
I don't think he's seen any of the race yet.
Somebody suggested that maybe they should paint some road markings on in front of him so he feels a little more at home. So what's going on here with the forearm, Ken?
So a lot of boats, well, it could
iPhone
even be an iPhone type device. It's obviously, we're looking on the forearm right here. It's a lot of boats now have wireless kind of heads-up displays that key instrumentation, and whoever, I don't even know who that was, whatever that position is, you'll have key instrumentation that is critical to your job. It could be a display that says hydraulic pressure. It could be a display that says true wind direction, course to the mark, how many laps you've done. I mean, it could be anything, but it's a vital piece of information that whoever that was, they need at a moment's notice.
So one more gate to navigate, and then the blast reach to the finish for Emirates Team New Zealand, who've been displaying all their proficiency and their prowess in this race. Another masterclass, really.
Get them in front, and they are launched.
No, corridor's open. Fuck. Definitely 6F.
See, they were talking about.
He must have an issue if he's heading for home.
How many legs were still on? They were just talking about. Are you sure it's a 6F? Yep, it's 6F. That means 6 legs and then to the finish.
Always good to be discussing that as you are a couple of 100 meters from the finish line. What's going to the Swedes?
Something's wrong with the Swedes.
They're going very much in the wrong direction at this point.
You've got to get a camera on the Swedes. Clearly they have problems. I'm looking out on the race course right now, and I didn't realize they had careened off, but clearly they have an issue.
Trouble for Sweden at this point, but the Kiwis back in front in the playoff final. Their boat speed so impressive, and another really good example of their calm and their composure in chasing down opponents. So they lead by 3 points to 2, and the Swedes have officially retired from the race. I wonder if this is significant in terms of some kind of technical problem.
We'll be looking for people crawling all over the boat with regard to if we do think it's a technical issue, if they just decided, let's take a little rest, let's take some rest time.
So every team out here have had their issues. Boats breaking up, little parts malfunctioning, men overboard.
Down and Parko tries to take lift out, but you get it out and then just comes straight back.
So what happens is, as I go, dagger board will go down, and then start.
We can unplug it.
Hey guys, watch the comms. Everything broadcasting.
Yeah, you're right there.
They're on to us.
Everything is broadcasted. But we've got a dagger board issue.
Clearly, whether it's a software issue or a mechanical issue or a hardware or a hydraulic issue is slightly unclear.
So plenty for the Swedes to digest and to address. They failed to finish the race. They got another good start, but they couldn't cling on. The Kiwis chased them down.
Back at it again. This is the same old story. So something's got to give between these two teams.
So let's have a look at the results so far. A win apiece. One for the Swedes, one for the Kiwis, one to come. But New Zealand now leading by 3 points to 2. And remember, this is a 1st to 5 contest. 9 races in total, if required. Kiwis just 2 races away. So here's how the race broke down.
Well, I hate to sound like a broken record, but time and distance, whether it's aggressive tactics or time and distance, Nathan Outeridge is having the better of this all the time. But one bad misplaced tack by Artemis Racing, and all of a sudden there was an overlap and it was game on again. So same old story. Artemis can win the start, get out, get halfway around the race course, and figures out a way to just make one crucial mistake. It was a tactical mistake when they didn't tack on top of Emirates Team New Zealand effectively. And you know what? Emirates Team New Zealand, they just wait around for this to happen. They wait for this opportunity. They're patient. And when they get the chance, they just pounce and go on and dominate. They were dominating the race prior to the Artemis Racing retirement, but how much of that retirement and slowness was based on a breakdown?
So let's have a word with Emirates Team New Zealand helmsman Peter Burling. Peter, you've got your noses back in front again, another excellent race, and yet again another example of you happy to surrender the lead. I'm sure not happy, that's probably not the right word, but at ease, chasing.
Yeah, well, definitely, it wasn't our best pre-start, but there was quite a bit of wind, and with our configuration, we always knew that if we're in the bottom mark with in good shape, then we'd have a good crack at them up the feed. And they did very similar things to what they've done in the previous race, and I think we just reacted a little better than we have in the past. So, really happy with the way the boys fought. Obviously, that first race was, really tough for us. Felt like we sailed very well in the start, but just didn't quite get the outcome. But really happy to take that race like that, and it's a massive boost for us.
So, Peter, obviously, with your longer boards in today, with the breeze dropping around 10 knots or so, are you finding it to have a little more of a sweet spot right now? I mean, can you really tell? Can you feel the difference?
Yeah, well, for sure. And I think that right up that beat, just how much better our attacks were. Felt like every time we went through attack and every time we got the boat, rumbling on a halfway decent shift, we were just either sailing away or gaining. So, really happy with the way the boys fought. Obviously, that first race was really tough, but for us to get that done like that, it's really pleasing.
Good work, Peter. Thank you very much for your time, as ever.
Thanks, mate.
So let's check in with Nathan Outeridge now, helmsman of Artemis Racing. Nathan, can you update us on developments on board your boat? We understand you've got dagger board issues, and that was the reason you couldn't finish.
Yeah, we got a bit of a control system issue at the moment. We're just trying to solve. I just saw some of our tacks are pretty scrappy and really wasn't working the way it needed to work. So rather than wasting more time trying to get to the finishing line, the guys are just trying to get it ready for the next race.
Yeah, Nathan, halfway through that race, you guys tried to put a covering tack on Emirates Team New Zealand. Might have gone a little bit too early. Can you take us through that moment, and how do you pick and choose the line, and how do you do a little better next time?
Yeah, obviously we went a tad early on that tack. It's quite hard to really judge it because the boats are going so quick, and particularly with them on the bigger boards today, they have a bit more of a high mode, so in hindsight we should have gone on another length there. But they're going quite quick upwind, and we got the edge downwind, so if we can get this issue resolved, it's going to be a good third race.
Nathan, I appreciate it's probably pretty fresh, but how major is this problem? Do you think it's going to be fixable in the short time you have?
We should be able to get it fixed in time. We're just sort of fault finding at the moment, trying to work out exactly what it is. These boats are pretty complicated. There's several buttons and bits and pieces in the boat, and once you work out which part is malfunctioning, it's a pretty quick change. So as you can see, there's plenty of people having a look at the moment, and you know, will be good for the race, I'm sure.
Okay, good to hear. We wish you well. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
So one or two things for the Swedes to resolve, and here's some more statistics for you to break down, Ken.
Well, upwind boat speed, for sure, both teams called that one correctly. Upwind boat speed certainly tipped to New Zealand. Downwind, Nathan Outeridge thinks he's quicker, but the facts show slightly different. Now, we have to also take away the fact that I think we cut this off before they actually retired from the race. But you know what? Upwind boat speed certainly looks impressive with these light air boards today for Team New Zealand. So leg 3, this is an interesting stat. This is when Emirates Team New Zealand got by Artemis Racing, and it's right here. Look at the speed difference coming out of these tacks. Huge speed difference between the boats, almost, so let's say that's 10 plus knots. So when you make little mistakes like that, there's a couple little points in time during that leg that the average was substantially lower for Artemis Racing than Emirates Team New Zealand.
So it takes years to put one of these America's Cup campaigns together, designing, testing, optimizing, and mastering the perfect racing machine. It's a lengthy and very detailed process, and by the time the teams arrive ready to race, what we see is the culmination of thousands and thousands of man-hours. But the development doesn't stop just because the racing has started.
The America's Cup is a development race, and development has been going for years and years, and then racing begins, and most people might assume development stops because you're now racing. But it couldn't be further from the truth.
This is a development race. If you don't have enough speed, you've got a lot of issues. You know, the boats develop day to day. Some stages you make the wrong decisions and you feel like you go backwards a little bit, but hopefully in the end you end up just keeping on charging forward.
Our designers are still working flat out to come up with the latest and greatest thing for the boat. Our semi-final was a perfect example of design, engineering and shore team making changes to the boat, and I think now we have, you know, some of the best boat handling in the fleet just with a couple of changes to the boat.
You know, it's something that everyone plays with, how their wing works, you know, how it twists, how it operates, what appendages they put on the boat. You can slowly tweak them and change them to make them better, and we've definitely seen it, you know, across the fence. The guys working pretty hard to change their appendages a little bit.
At the end of every time that we've gone sailing on the boat, there's generally a list of things that need improving. It's often to do with the control system, the flight control system, or it's to do with how you control the wing functions. And thirdly, it's usually got something to do with efficiency. That's the main thing we've been able to focus on.
Every day we go out there, we get better at something, whether it's a piece of handling or a mode you've decided to sail, some new piece of hardware. The guys in the shed work really hard to keep producing things that, you know, we want to test and try and develop. Obviously the competition's, you know, really tight between the top teams and everyone's pushing forward, so if you don't, you'll just get left behind and you won't even make it to the Cup.
You've just got to keep developing, keep growing confidence in the boat, and at the end of the day, that's what's going to give you the advantage.
wind, and directly away from the wind, nothing can travel any faster than the wind itself. As a result, the boats zigzag from side to side, trying to find a balance between speed through the water and angle towards the mark. In very technical terms, each boat is searching for the very best velocity made good, or VMG in sailors' terms. The closer you sail to the direction of the wind, what sailors call higher, the slower your boat speed. The further away from the wind you sail, or lower, the faster you go. Finding the balance between the two is key. So that's the game. Better VMG, minimize the maneuvers, play the wind shifts better than your competitor. Believe me, this sounds a lot easier than it is.
Nice explanation, Kenny. You're getting good at this.
Well, no, it is, if it were only that simple.
Well, it's not always a straightforward picture, is it? And as we know, all the sailors are constantly having to be on their guard, ready for whatever the weather is throwing at them. Well, we've seen throughout this competition the value of perfecting foiling performance, and coming into the Cup, we knew all the teams were pushing to achieve the ultimate goal of staying on the foils for an entire race, but only one has actually managed it. Peter Burling has edged him out of contention and is flying already. The French under pressure from the word go. 42 knots from the Kiwis as they reach for the first mark. One bad maneuver, one loss of boat speed, and you're in big, big trouble. Hurtling into gate 2. Peter Burling very much in control. High up on the water, 100% of the time on the foils. Emirates Team New Zealand.
They've gone around essentially 1.5 races here now and have been in the water for less than 1% of their time. That's not so bad.
Well, the Kiwis are an unforgiving bunch when it comes to sport. They are ruthless, they are relentless.
I think everybody would have to admit at this stage, they look good.
Total control.
As we're seeing, you got to go around almost clean, especially in this breeze. And by clean, we mean out of the water 100% of the time. And
it's on. It is on. 100% of the time, the Kiwis flying their hulls, and not too far to go now. Is this the moment we've been waiting for, Ken?
We have some gauges on these boats to actually tell whether that leeward hull goes in the water or not. The evolution of the technique on all these boats is what's really driving this extra performance.
I'm in. I'm all in.
You are?
Yeah. Look, we had 99.6 before. Come on. It's going to happen. Roll the dice, Ken.
They could spoil it just by being cautious right at the end of the race.
I don't think they know cautious. It's not in their DNA. 100% of the time up on the foils.
Come on, boys. Keep it up through the finish.
Flying to the finish line. A powerful, dominant 7th win of the regatta for New Zealand. The Kiwis cross the line.
So, Peter, I don't know if anybody's told you yet, but that was 100% around the track, 100% up in the air. You're the first team to do it. Nice job.
Yeah, well, it's what we tried to do. We thought we'd almost got it done that race before, but we're really happy with how the boat's going. But like we've been saying the whole time, we feel like we've got plenty more in the tank, and we're just really excited to keep pushing forward.
Well, it was a great moment, little moment of America's Cup history, a landmark of a kind. And Kenny, since that piece was made, we've had a couple of other teams who've got involved with this 100% fly time. The Swedes yesterday and the Brits before them.
Exactly right. Many people have asked how this is actually monitored. There's a GPS unit that's accurate to 2 centimeters. It's what's called an IMU, a military-grade IMU that figures out the axis rotation. This is really a game of math. If the average of both hulls are always above a certain level, that is what is called 100% fly time. So it's technical. It's not just somebody sitting there staring at the hulls and wondering if they splash down.
So loads of people in the village, and we are all set for the final race of the day, the Challenger Playoffs final between Peter Burling's New Zealand and Nathan Outridge's Sweden, with the Kiwis holding a 3-2 advantage. Can the Swedes level up before the end of the day, or can the Kiwis steal a march here and put themselves at match point going into tomorrow? What a bonus that would be. Let's see how the New Zealanders line up.
Well, the New Zealanders still in that cycling mode. They rotated in, Joe Sullivan in this race. They've only been doing one player per race for the most part. So, you know, it's brutal, the amount of physical energy these guys have to exert. And for sure, this rotation has become a key strategy for all the teams in this contest.
So the big question for the Swedes, have they fixed their daggerboard issues? They have had a very limited time span. Those are the rules. Everybody has to play by them, and they need to be ready to go in just a few short minutes' time. We have the thumbs up from Nathan Outridge, which hopefully is good news. Let's have a look at their crew.
Well, that would have been some anxious moments. Nathan Outridge sounded pretty calm, cool, and collected when he was talking to us about whether they were going to fix the boat or not. Interestingly enough, they have swapped out two players in this race. Chris Brittle and Andreas Axelsson are off. Anders Gustafsson and Kaylee Torlin are back on again. Rare we see two guys getting switched out at the same time, but they need some fresh players. They need this race.
So here's the course, and again, the longer stretch to that first mark is the quicker.
Yeah, the quicker. So again, this is where the wind comes from, this direction here, and this angle is faster than this angle. So there's no doubt that teams actually, they measure exactly where these marks are. They know through all their technical awareness, their details as far as their speed and angle, they know which end is faster to get to the start. So that is actually a bit of knowledge that the skipper has before he even goes over the starting line.
So the tactics, the policies, the ploys will all be carefully analysed in a moment or two, with the New Zealanders enjoying port entry for this last race of the day. The 6th episode then of New Zealand against Sweden in the Louis Vuitton America's Cup Challenger playoff finals. A key race. They're all key races, but how the New Zealanders would love to go in 4-2 ahead and at match point, just one race win away from being confirmed as the America's Cup challengers. Peter Burling really badly needing to sort out these starts of his.
And Nathan Outridge has to figure out how to finish. So we keep saying match point. This has a bit of tennis match to it, doesn't it? Each team has held serve so far. If you go off of that philosophy, Artemis is serving this time around. It would be their turn. It's fascinating how, you know, in the older match racing days with the monohulls, the boats would come together and essentially stay glued to each other the entire pre-start. This is anything but. These guys separate a mile apart, then just come zooming back at each other again. It's really fascinating how they must sit around at their video screens at night to try to come up with these strategies.
The pre-start dance well underway between the Swedes, led by Nathan Outridge, who of course had trouble in that second race with his dagger board. Really prevented them from finishing the race. And the Kiwis under Peter Burling, who are just remarkably consistent, but looks like it's game on out there because these two coming together pretty tight. There's the protest from the New Zealanders.
Flag it, flag it, flag it. That means certainly Emirates Team New Zealand thought they had an overlap, and clearly Chief Umpire Richard Slater did not think they had an overlap. He's the guy with the final say. Only 20 seconds to the start. This is going to very quickly turn into time and distance. Emirates Team New Zealand, though, this time going from that higher speed side of the line.
Looks like they might have timed this really nicely, the New Zealanders. They are up, and they are onto their foils, and they are in front. But the Swedish boat speed is picking up quite drastically on the inside of them, beyond 40 knots.
There is no doubt. Paul Kayard in the water called this earlier. There is no doubt that these lighter air foils are slower on a reach. They might be better upwind. They might be even okay downwind, but on a reach, look at these guys. They're going to sail. They're sailing off the island right now, off the race course. It's become a real strategy of Artemis Racing. Push them way away from this line and then just try to stretch out their gap. I'm sorry, but this could be a rerun of pretty much every race we've seen so far.
Well, they are driving the Kiwis further and further away from the first mark at this point. And you just get the impression that they know they've got to make hay on this first reach. They've got to build as big a lead as they possibly can to keep the Kiwis at arm's length, because the New Zealanders will feel they can reel them in from pretty much anywhere. This kind of distance is going to be nothing for them in their mind.
Here we go again. Kiwis will just keep it close, keep the pressure on, see if Artemis cracks. It's really that simple. Going out to Paul Kayard on the water. Paul, why do you think that the lighter air, longer foils of New Zealand show up really as a deficiency on that first reach, but they really don't seem to on the run? You would think the reach and the run have kind of similar modes for dagger boards.
Yeah, well, I think, as you know, Kenny, the run, you're VMG sailing a little bit, so you take it down. You're not quite as high speed as you are on that 100-degree reach. So that's the highest speed leg of the whole race, from the start to the first mark, and that's where the Kiwis are paying for it the most. So the wind's still about 11 knots overall, so let's see how the rest of the race pans out for them.
That 11 knot alley is right at the transition where most of these teams kind of toss a coin whether which ones you're going to use.
Round gate 2, Swedes in front, setting the pace, setting the agenda, and now they have to make sure that they keep their foot on the throat of the Kiwis, and that has proved a very difficult thing for them to achieve. Attack from the New Zealanders. They're not interested in sailing close to the Swedes. They want to head off early, get out into the open water, hunt down that extra bit of breeze that they might find.
I think that left-hand mark was certainly favored, more of an upwind mark, so they chose not to split at that bottom gate, to follow them around and then tack. So they didn't give up the distance at the gate, but they got kind of a semi-split here. They got free air, that's for sure.
Discrepancy between everybody there, but Kelly Tallon, the sole grinder, up in the 90s. Nathan Outridge's heart's pumping fast enough for a helmsman at 81.
Wing trimmer Ian Jensen.
Okay, set up soft on port, hard starboard. Potential dial.
Who's got the easiest job?
Do it early, all right? Here we go.
You and me.
Early.
Okay.
Early.
This is getting close. There was a left-hand shift going up this leg. Artemis Racing actually started a dial down there. Kiwis got right back into it on a bit of a left-hand wind shift. Kiwis did a big dip, thinking they were going to get dialed even harder, and kind of gave up a bit of distance, gave that distance right back again.
There's a great race brewing here, you feel. Very little in it. Decent wind speed. Great boat speed.
Yeah, I think the breeze is going slightly back right again. I tell you, the Kiwis, either they're playing the wind shifts better or they're flying, because they seem a little higher and a little faster on this leg. Go back and look at this tacking across. The Kiwis tack to port tack. Immediately Artemis dials right down at them. 90 degrees, Kiwis go way low and actually come off their foils a little bit there and give up 8 or 10 boat lengths on that dial down. So very effective dial down maneuver by Nathan Outeridge and Artemis Racing. Still not much in it though. Tacking right on top, wing wash will come into effect here for sure.
So this is where the Swedes try to spoil the air of the New Zealanders alongside them and a little bit in the slipstream, looking to try to ensure that they don't get a clear run at it, but Kiwis are not interested.
Yeah, it's not like car racing where you can do a little bump draft, that it's an effective being behind, but
saving the pack.
Kiwis are going to think we're just simply quicker upwind. Let's keep this close and we can get them on the next upwind leg. Keep it close if you're a Kiwi fan. That's what you're thinking. Pretty big split here right now, though. Big split on the race course. A wind shift when the boats get this far apart absolutely magnifies the situation.
There go the Swedes.
Good pressure
Attacking
coming.
one final time. The New Zealanders have done similarly on the other side of the course. There is not going to be a huge amount in this as they head to gate 3.
But it looks like the left-hand mark at the top of the gate, it looks like that mark right up here is closer. So it'll be interesting to see if Artemis tacks for it or if they continue all the way across. They're crossing ahead of New Zealand easy, but it sure looks like the wind has shifted on the race course, and both boats are going to round these marks at very similar moments. Sure enough, almost exactly the same turn time.
Nip and tuck.
Paul, let's go. Paul Kayard, has there been a general trend to the wind going in one direction or another? It looks like the race course is a little tilted right now.
Yeah, Kenny, you're right. The wind is skewed to the left of the axis a little bit. But I'm also pretty impressed. I think the Kiwis are going really fast because when they went in the right corner on that last part of the beat, it's right behind the highest land around, and I kind of thought they might get light over there, but they didn't. So, yes, the course is skewed, but the Kiwis are fast.
2, 1, yep.
Swedish boat, unquestionably our noisiest boat in the fleet. Not just because of the communications on board, the talkative nature of their crew, but it tends to make a really high-pitched howling noise.
And they've made the big gain on this side of the race course. So not only did that split at the top gate work as far as getting the Kiwis around the gate mark, almost identical time, but here they make yet another pass. Upwind and downwind, they're going really fast right now.
Did everything we can. That's good. High wing. 2, 1, good jump. Nice. Good. Turn, Sam, turn. No, high wheel. Great. Get it ripping here, guys. Ease.
Neat and tidy on the jibe for Artemis Racing. Kiwis, though, really flying up the far end of the course. 100% fly time for both crews at the moment. Hulls out of the water, on the foils, all the way.
Always thought this was going to happen. As the event went along, the boats would just become more and more perfectly sailed.
Numbers are good. 2, 1.
That means boat speed comes more into play. You take essentially that 100% on both boats means that nobody's really made that fatal mistake. So boat speed is the thing that takes over. Look at this. These guys jive directly in front.
5 for the roundup.
Artemis. Will Artemis split to the other side or follow them in?
They're going to have to make their play right here, right now. They're following them round.
Boat race. This is a boat race.
So tight on their tail, the Swedes.
Within 2 meters, going 25, 30 knots amongst friends.
bearing away on the tack, the Swedes.
Let's go on board and listen to these guys for a minute.
That top left mark is favoured. Open course at the moment. We're lifted here.
On board with Artemis on the audio. Kiwis just look fast.
So the New Zealand is just this very slick, well-oiled machine, totally confident in their boat and their boat handling, the way everybody interacts.
Both boats going very similar speeds through the water, but I'm maintaining that the VMG, or the velocity made good, is much better for Team New Zealand right now. So we just saw attack on Sweden, but both boats are going a similar boat speed through the water. Let's wait for these two tacks to happen, and that bottom number on both sides is the key number. Once the boats settle in, let's see who has a better VMG toward the mark. The Kiwis just look like they're going about the same speed, but just higher toward the wind, pointing closer to the wind than Artemis Racing all the time.
1.5 legs of this race remaining. And look at the Kiwis there. Told us to keep an eye on that bottom number, Kenny. It was picking up from a New Zealand perspective.
They did. As the boats settled in on the tacks, they were 3 or 4 knots faster. I mean, usually in the boats that Paul Gaillard and I have sailed our whole lives, Paul, 1/10 of a knot was a beautiful thing. These guys are talking 3, 4, 5 knots.
Yeah, it's a whole different ball game for sure. 1/10 of a knot was a huge deal in our day.
Just higher. I mean, you look at the angle that Team New Zealand, they're just pointing higher all the time than Artemis Racing.
Are we now at the stage of the race, Ken, where the Swedes are going to have to hope that the Kiwis make a mess somewhere?
And it's not something the red boat is apt to do very often. We've seen that throughout this entire series so far. It's a fine line between waiting for the guy to make a mistake in front of you and pure desperation. And as a tactician, you kind of have to make that call at some stage. We gotta try something, or let's just stick with them.
It's getting towards make or break time for the Swedish crew. This could really change things this race. The New Zealanders leading 3-2. The difference, quite obviously, between a 4-2 lead overnight and 3 points apiece if the Swedes pull it off, just enormous. So much pressure coming to bear on Nathan Outridge and the rest of his team at this point.
These daggerboard choices have just become such an integral part of this America's Cup. Slower on that first reach, behind every single race at mark number 1 for Emirates Team New Zealand so far. And right now, they're cruising off to a 4-2 series lead. Really kind of unheard of.
Wait and see what he does. 15 to boundary, standing by.
Gate 5. And downwind for the last time in the race. Time running out for Artemis Racing here. The Kiwis have set the agenda. They've forced the pace of the race pretty much from the outset. Certainly chasing down the Swedes to very good effect after that first mark. They've got them where they want them. Hard to see them tripping up from here.
They have gone every time the Kiwis get ahead, they just extend. Always the sign of a quicker boat. Long port tack. Really takes away the options here. If you're Sweden, let's go back out to Paul for a second. If you're Sweden, what do you do?
It's not much. They can only hope for some kind of a breakdown or a massive screw up by Team New Zealand. I think Kenny, it's going to be one jibe and in probably for New Zealand. And yeah, it's tough. They're going to have to regroup tonight and come out swinging.
As an old boss of mine told me a long time ago, hope is not a strategy that you want to really rely on.
Well, the effort is still going in, but the hopes are fading, and fading fast at this stage. The New Zealanders, so well organised, so well drilled, so confident, and cruising across the top of the water. The Cyclaws certainly seem to have given them some sort of edge. And as we've discussed through the opening fortnight here, it might be only just one of a number of different little edges that are adding up to their excellence on the water.
That's exactly correct. There'll be one more jibe through this gate, and actually it looks like they might have to jibe a couple times to get to the finish line. The finish line is actually really dead downwind from this gate, from this final gate. So without a big mishap by Emirates Team New Zealand, this race looks pretty over.
So the final gate, they're cutting it pretty fine. And that's just about as animated as you'll hear Peter Burling.
Well, there's the mishap that Artemis Racing is looking for right now. Are they out of hydraulic pressure to be able to do these two jibes very quickly?
Well, Artemis speed is right down now for the Kiwis, only at 15, 16 knots.
Artemis screaming up from behind.
Yeah, easy. Weight up. Full weight up.
And now it is anybody's. Would you believe the Swedes right back in the hunt from out of nowhere? Will the New Zealanders manage to hang on? There is absolutely nothing in it. New Zealand tearing across the water. They are just about going to nose it. Oh my goodness, what a breathless finish. There is the protest from the Swedish boat. Is that going to make a difference at this point?
A bit of a desperation protest. I didn't see anything both over the monitors or live or on the monitor that the Kiwis did wrong there.
Still no decision on the penalty, so...
Hey, Chase 1, are you close?
We'll wait and see what the decision is from Richard Slater, the chief umpire. Kiwis are celebrating, and there is no penalty, we understand. So the New Zealanders win the race. They've won it clean, and they are now in pole position in the Challenger playoff final. A pivotal race. Sweden now match point down, and one more race will do it for the Kiwis.
It just shows that every time we sit here and say, yep, looks good, this team's going to win, out of nowhere, the Kiwis actually make an unforced error, something that we just so rarely have seen during this event. I think they ran out of hydraulic pressure. I think they had a bad jibe because they didn't have enough juice in the system.
Let's have another look at the finish, because it was just totally enthralling.
And here's the finish line right up here. And both boats, we see certainly Artemis has a lower angle, probably not quite, actually almost the same speeds. The Kiwis are slightly faster there. Kiwis have to give them room because there is an overlap. The Kiwis bear off. Clearly there's plenty of room between the two boats. Photo finish. Thanks for making it interesting, fellas.
There's a fairing, bit up in the water. I'm pointing at it. You pick that up and then...
I think he's saying it wasn't a ferry. I don't speak fluent Kiwi, but I speak enough. I hang around with enough of these guys. I think he said a fairing. There's a piece of fairing in the water that he's trying to get picked up.
Yeah, it was fairing rather than a ferry, that's for sure. So here are the numbers, the breakdown numbers, leg by leg.
We wanted these races to be close, and this is craziness. I mean, Sweden again launched on that first leg. New Zealand sticks with them, faster upwind for sure, and barely hang on to the finish for a 1 second delta.
So let's hear from the helmsman on board Emirates Team New Zealand, Peter Burling, who have now gone 4-2 up, of course, in this Challenger playoff final. Peter, just talk us through the finish there, because hearts must have been in mouths.
Yeah, we definitely did a little tough there from where we came from, and it was just, I think that shows, you know, one little mistake, one little error, and you're really struggling. And, you know, these guys are sailing really well on the other side, and definitely probably had the click on the appendage program, but for ourselves to fight back and keep going. Get over there. Keep going, we're really happy.
So Peter, take us through that last jibe. Obviously you looked to be delaying your jibe. Was that a hydraulic pressure issue? Did you just not have enough juice to pull that jibe off at the time?
No, it was actually probably poor comms on my behalf. I think we all thought we were going to lay through the gate and be able to do a nice jibe after the gate, but then because we didn't lay through, life kind of became pretty hard. But you know, the boys definitely dug pretty deep, and you know, the legs were probably a little tired at the end of that, but just the amount of power they managed to put out to get that board down, you know, it's pretty key.
The light air foils that you guys had in today versus the high speed foils of Artemis Racing, they certainly didn't exactly help you out on that first leg, but from then on, VMG wise, upwind especially, they look special.
Yeah, well, for ourselves, you know, like I said, after that first race, you know, I think we definitely addressed what we're doing on the starts, and you know, if we had had our other set of foils in, you know, it might have been a different story in the first and third start. But we were definitely, you know, really happy just to chip away and make sure we're in the game, kind of coming into the first bottom mark. But then, yeah, made sure we got the job done, and to have a 4-2 lead going into tomorrow is, you know, something that's incredibly pleasing for the boys.
Peter, many congratulations. Sleep well, I'm sure you will.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Big day coming up tomorrow for both of these crews. Let's have a word with Nathan Outteridge, the helmsman of Artemis Racing, the Swedish team out here in Bermuda. Nathan, you very nearly squeaked home.
Yeah, almost got inside there. You know, it was pretty touch and go. I think the line was a little bit biased to the other end, so you know, they probably got us by half a length, and pretty exciting finish to that one.
So Nathan, we here in the booth today, we've just been talking about foils all day. Obviously that reach number one, your high speed foils were quite dominant, got you to the lead every single time, but VMG wise, especially upwind, it seemed like the long foils of the Kiwis might have had a little bit of an edge.
Yeah, we felt they had a little edge upwind compared to us. Obviously we had the legs on the reach and downwind, and it seemed like the further you got to the top mark, it just kept getting softer and softer, so we could hold them off on the first half of the beats, and then it was just really hard to fend them off. In that last top mark, you know, we split marks. We probably could have taken the left mark and really tried to make it really difficult for them to get by us, but you know, that's life sometimes, and you know, we'll come out tomorrow fighting.
Tough equation for you now, Nathan. You need 3 from 3 tomorrow. Is it possible?
We've done it before.
Good
done
point.
it in the semis, so you know, full of confidence. We just got to you know, regroup now and come out tomorrow. It's going to be another day, and we're looking forward to it.
Best of luck. Thanks for your time.
Cheers, guys.
So here are the numbers that you can analyse, Kenny.
Yeah, you know, it's actually interesting. The upwind speeds look very, you know, very close. Downwind speeds actually go to Sweden. What's the big difference here? Well, there's a couple hundred meters sailed less by Emirates Team New Zealand. That means they probably got a couple wind shifts, but I think the speeds don't tell the difference on that upwind leg. It's that VMG number that we were talking about. Yes, they were going about the same speed, but I think they had height, which means they could sail closer to the wind all the time, and that was their upwind advantage. Now, second downwind leg, this is actually fascinating. There's a big give and take in this whole thing, but there's some major deficiencies. Artemis Racing here, big deficiency, but then look at massive gain there. So it all, even though there's massive knot differences, the averages came out almost identically. So it just shows you how crazy and different this style of racing really is.
Well, it's been a thrilling day of racing. We're going to have a look at some of the best bits. This is from race 4, the first race of the day.
I still think if you're an Emirates Team New Zealand coach right now, you're saying, you know what? We got off another day that we actually lost that's 6 races in a row that they have been behind at this first mark. Let's say they get through tomorrow, and let's face it, this is a big upwind battle for Artemis Racing to get back into this series. They're gonna have to win 3 races in a row against the Kiwis tomorrow. But if Team New Zealand doesn't figure out how to get off the starting line, Oracle, you gotta be Jimmy Spino sitting in the back room right now licking your chops. I'm gonna go right after this kid, you know, and he's gotta prove something. They gotta prove something. You can say, yeah, we're improving, we're going to strategy, everything else, but 6 for 6, that's really incredible. And it just showed how the high-speed foils versus low-speed foils had their moments today. Here we go again, Artemis Racing, clear start. They're actually at the low-speed angle of the starting line, and they take off, and they got a little bit of a lead again, but they lost 2 out of 3 races today, and that has to, again, be disheartening. One little error going upwind. They didn't tack directly in front of Emirates Team New Zealand, and all of a sudden, this went from a 100-meter lead into essentially an even boat race. A little luff by Emirates Team New Zealand. They pushed their protest button. For sure, both boats did exactly what they had to do. There was no foul, no harm, no foul. And the Swedes actually bail out in this second race because they had a little bit of a hydraulic issue. But I don't think that board angle and the board issue they had in the race really had any bearing on the outcome. Again, Emirates Team New Zealand at the high end or the high speed end of the starting line. You think they'd have the juice to get over the top of Sweden, but they didn't. 3rd race in a row. This is a great move by Nathan Outeridge, a dial down that actually bought him almost 100 yards in no time. It went from a very even race to, what's that, a 10-15 boat length lead. But here come the Kiwis. They got really fortunate on this mark rounding. Look how that left-hand mark is skewed. It's closer. So even though they're 75 to 100 meters behind, both boats actually round these marks almost at identical times, and that's because the course was a little skewed. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you get a little break. I think Emirates Team New Zealand got a little break at that top gate. A wind shift, an extension, almost a major error. I think somebody got on board to him from television and said, could you please make this as close as humanly possible and almost break your fans' hearts? They tried, and they pull off a 1-second victory. Just fantastic stuff.
Well, it was a brilliant finish. And I think that little chuckle tells you just how tight it was at the end. So results today. 2 wins for all the Kiwis, having lost the first. They bounced back really well. The Swedes in flying form in the opening race of the day. The Kiwi starts need a little bit of work, don't they? But the boat speed Ken Reed.